Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video I'm going to show a couple clips of contenders, but generally speaking we're going to get to what I believe is the best, most powerful, most efficient, most convenient, high damage build in Elden Ring. Now, as the title suggests, this weekend as I was going through clips and making one of the biggest videos I ever made on Friday, I had come to the realization that I've beaten Elden Ring over 75 times. So I wanted to decide at this point what the best overall build I've ever used was. There's a whole bunch of contenders. One of them is the shield and heal build, which is still very much close to invincible when you're using it. The only issues that I have with it though is it's got that hefty strength requirement of 48 on the shield, and then of course you are vulnerable when you're using the blasphemous blade, but you are using one of the best weapons in the game, and that's a contender by itself as well. As far as the shield and heal though, that is a really fantastic build, but unfortunately for it, there's better ones. Next up that I thought of was Marius Executioner Sword. Now, as you guys know, I do a lot of buffs on my channel because I like to see how much damage I can do, but the thing is, this is one of those weapons, and several of these builds are, that without buffs they're still incredibly powerful. However, my issue with Marius Executioner is very simple. It's just a little too slow to cast and has a big learning curve. Speaking of learning curves, another one that's very, very close, but I know a lot of people have difficulty with, is Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike. Incredibly powerful, can one-shot the majority of bosses in the game, but it's a little bit hard to use. Ancient Dragon Lightning Strike has a very steep learning curve, but if you're able to take the time and patience, it's incredibly powerful and definitely makes my top 3. Next up I thought of was Mogwin's Sacred Spear, which was a ridiculous amount of damage. It does insane bleed, insane fire damage, but there's a few issues with it. And what are they? Well, you're seeing them right now. You're basically a standing target the entire time you use this Ash of War, and even though it rips through bosses' HP, you can easily get knocked out of it. And the last one, the third one, the one you're going to want the most, that does the most amount of damage, you may get knocked out before you're able to use it. Next up, Comet Azure. Comet Azure has to be it, right, Matt? I mean, this literally is the most powerful spell in the game, and at any time you can take the majority of a boss's HP and absolutely destroy it, making the game incredibly easy in the process. Not really. Here's the issue with Comet Azure. It involves a lot of setup, more setup than most things do, and you really have to time a boss to have it to specifically stand in a spot while you're channeling it. It's far from perfect, incredibly powerful, but it is not the most convenient to use for the amount of damage that you get out of it. A lot of damage, but hopefully to a standing target. And next up is the Scavenger Curved Sword, Bleed Frost, or Bleed Bleed, or the Bandit Curved Swords, or any variation of the sorts. The issue that I have here is simply the jump attacks. Especially on smaller targets, it takes a lot to get used to it, but once you do, it does shred, and it's obviously a contender for the best, along with the rest of these as well. And the next up is a pure Blasphemous Blade. If you're going to buff the Blasphemous Blade for massive damage, stand back. It's really, really, really good, especially when comboed with the Sword of Milos. You do a lot of damage, get that FP back in the main game too, and then obviously you can use the debuff to get even more damage out of the Blasphemous Blade. But it's not number one because it doesn't have the range, it doesn't have the efficiency, it doesn't have the convenience, the safety of use, and the damage of the one that I picked for number one, the best build I've ever used in Elden Ring, Night Comet. Yeah, Night Comet, I didn't think it was going to end up being number one, but then when I was looking through clips this weekend, I decided this is the best. This was the best one that I used simply for the fact that before any buffs, and we buffed it a lot in the videos that we did, I'm showing clips from there, it has a 60% boost with 2 Staves of Law. So you're getting 60% more damage before buffs. The range is incredible. It can hit targets like Melania, who literally can't even see it, and it's a ridiculous amount of damage that it does as well. It can also be buffed by Terra Magica, and you can stand, as I mentioned with the range, incredibly far from bosses and targets while absolutely shredding their HP to bits. As you can see that I low health procced in this video, I wasn't even worried about dying from Melania, basically going for the, I've had several no hits on her at this point, but yeah, it's not even that hard to do this because you're able to stay really far away, and sure, maybe you will get hit once or twice, maybe try the full health version first, but if you go low health, you're going to do so much damage. Keep your distance, play it safely. This is also incredibly easy to buff as well. Obviously, Terra Magica boosts it even further. Then you could use something here like the Moon for the debuff, and then follow up with it. And once again, that range is seriously good. As you're going to see with the Fire Giant here, we're able to stay, as I mentioned, pretty far away from him while doing massive damage. All the clips from this one video, by the way, are from New Game Plus 7, so they're at max scaling, and they're ridiculous. I mean, the fact that you can do this much damage when the Fire Giant, and again, 0 magic resistance, but he's got 64,000 HP, and he just simply gets shredded by Night Comet. And as you can see there, even as it had to angle up, the range is absolutely absurd on Night Comet. It truly is. And it's chargeable too. Did I mention that? The Godfrey icon will boost it. It is truly a fantastic spell and incredibly powerful. This is one of those things too where you can buff it a lot too. The difference is with buffs, before any buffs, just the 60%, it's still good. With the buffs, it's great to fantastic. And I know there's a lot of people that think that you can buff every weapon or item in Elden Ring. Well, just try using Vair's Bouquet. I don't think you can buff that. But anyway, moving forward, it's not every single weapon in the game that you can buff, but obviously there's a lot that you can make better, especially when it comes to spells and incantations. But the one thing that not all of them have is safety and consistency, and that's something that Night Comet has. Did take me a little bit to get used to doing the whole low health proccing in the build that I ended up doing for it, and I went through the entire game with all the low health procs. Died, I think, less than 10 times in total, mainly a few times to the late game bosses. And again, was really surprised, still surprised now to look at these clips, how good it truly is. Again, the range, the damage, the power, it's ridiculous. And we do have the full build here for you as well. Another thing I want to say too is I also go by feedback. I have a Discord now that's growing. There's over 100 people on there. It's been growing a lot. We have a really good group in there. But anyways, as far as the Discord goes, as far as YouTube goes itself, I read and pay attention to a lot of comments, and a lot of people told me that Night Comet helped them with the game. They found in some instances that it was almost too powerful, it was too easy, and it was incredibly good. There was a ton of good feedback on the builds that I did. First one, I believe, was sometime in October or November, and then the last one I think I redid in January. It's a fantastic spell. It's incredibly powerful, and as I mentioned, the feedback on it was excellent. Let's get into build and equipment. Now, this is the clip that I had from the original video, and for that one, we had the Mushroom Crown and Black Dumpling, a Seppuku Sword to bring your HP down, 2 Staves of Loss for that 60% boost, and then we had the Graven Mask Talisman, Godfrey icon, Ritual Sword or Red Feather Branch, depending whether you're at full HP or where you're low health proccing, and then, of course, we have the Magic Scorpion Charm as well, and then you could swap out the Graven Mask Talisman for Kindred of Rots if you want to poison proc this, and the Magic Tear as well. Get a lot of damage out of this. You can buff this like crazy. Once again, the range, the damage is incredible. Main stats here, I did this on my level 200 character, which is my mage, is just to go high intelligence, preferably at least 60, and then 33 if you want to do all the buffs, so you can use Hellish Shabriri, and you can also proc the Black Dumpling. Now we're going to get into how I buffed this, how I got ridiculous levels of damage, but once again, you don't need to do all these buffs. Even without it, it's still fantastic, but the buffs make it even better. Seppuku will bring your HP down faster, by the way. Apparently all I had was Bloody Slash, but first things first is to bring your HP down, and then we're going to proc the Black Dumpling. This is for an extra 10% generic damage, and to get our HP down to that low health threshold so that we can get the 20% boost from the Red Feathered Branch Sword, and after of which we're going to be using the longer buffs. After we get our HP all the way down, it does take a second because of the armor that I had on here. We're going to switch to the Mushroom Crown because I was poison proccing this. It's one of the most buffable spells in the game, can do insane levels of damage, it truly can. Then we're going to drink our tear because that's the longer stuff. Then we're going to use Golden Vow because that also lasts 70 seconds. Then Hellish Shabriri. Then, depending on the fight, you can either poison proc first after you fill up your FP, or you can use Terra Magica first, vice versa. As long as you have them both together, you're going to do massive damage. But you don't have to do all this. This is just how to get ridiculous levels of damage that obviously are pretty much game-breaking. And that's it. I hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I hope this gives you a lot of information on Night Comet. I truly believe it's the best overall build that I've ever done, the best spell in the game. It truly is, just for the range, the efficiency, the safety, the damage, the amount that you get from it, and that 60% boost before any buffs. Definitely be sure to join the Discord as well. If you love overpowered PvE builds, you love Elden Ring, you're enjoying it a lot, definitely be sure to sub. Check out all the awesome builds that are on the channel. There's a ton of them on now. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys there.